All right. So lately we've been talking a lot about how to combine rational exponents, how to combine if you have radicals. So today we're actually going to take a long look at what happens if we're going to start adding, subtracting. All right, we're going to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. I'll just put the signs here, multiply and divide functions. Okay, so the very first example we're going to look at, let's say we have two functions. We're going to call the first one f of x. It's just the function. We're just going to name it that. And we're just going to call it 3 times the square root of x. Then we have another function. We're going to call it, actually, I'll do it in a different color. We're going to call it g of x. And we're going to call that negative 10 square root of x. Okay, and so we can start to we can ask ourselves the question, hey, what do we get if we have f plus g of x? And all this really means is we're going to take the function f of x, and then we're going to add g of x. So we would say, all right, 3 times the square root of x, that's our f of x piece. And then we're going to add g of x. So we would add a negative 10 square root of x. Okay, that's all. This is just a little bit of new notation, but all this really says is add the functions f and g. So if we go ahead and do that, well, they both have a square root of x in common. And then, so we're going to take that out. And if we do that, what's left is 3. And then we add negative 10. Well, 3 plus negative 10 would be negative 7. So our final answer would be negative 7 square root of x. Okay, that would be our final solution. That would be what f plus g of x equals. Negative 7 square root of x. We could also ask a similar question and say, hey, what is f minus g of x? Well, that would be a very similar process. We say 3 times the square root of x, and then we're going to subtract negative 10 square root of x. And we know that subtracting a negative is the same thing as adding a positive. So I'm just going to turn them into two addition symbols there. And we still have the square root of x in common like we did above. So we're going to be left with 3 plus 10, or 13 square roots of x. Okay. Um, let's try another example here. Let's do one more. So this time, um, let's say we have two functions. All right, we're going to call f of x this time. F of x this time is going to be 2x cubed plus 4x squared. Whoa, 4x squared. Let's tidy that up a little bit. Minus 8x. All right, and we'll have a plus 4 on the end. G of x is going to be 3x cubed minus 5x squared plus 6x, and we'll say minus 9 in the end. Okay. So just like before, our first question is going to be, hey, what's f plus g of x? Well, if we do that, we're just going to combine like terms, right? We're going to take our f of x function. It'd be 2x cubed plus 4x squared. I'm just going to put dot, dot, dot. All right. And then we're going to add our function g. Add our function g. So 3x cubed minus 5x squared, and so on and so forth. And we do all the terms there. So I'm actually, in this example, I'm going to add vertically. I'm going to add our two functions. So 2x cubed plus 3x cubed will give us 5x cubed. 4x squared plus negative 5x squared. Well, 4 plus negative 5 is negative 1x squared. Negative 8x plus positive 6x would be negative 2x, negative 8 plus 6. And then 4 plus negative 9 would be minus 5. So that would be our function f plus g of x, okay? And we can do the exact same thing. The natural follow-up question is, hey, what is f of x, or f minus g of x? Okay, and so just like before, I'm actually going to do this one vertically. We'll say 2x cubed plus 4x squared, oops, page is moving on me, minus 8x and plus 4. Okay, and we're going to subtract, oops, hang on, we lost a little connection. Minus 3x cubed minus 5x squared plus 6x minus 9. Okay, let me just remind you, we're doing this subtraction for all the terms. So we do 2 minus 3 will give us negative 1x cubed. We're going to do 4x squared minus negative 5x. So 4 minus negative 5 is really 4 plus 5, where we get 9x squared. Then we have negative 8x minus 6x. That's going to be minus 2, or sorry, minus 14x. Apologize, negative 8 minus 6. And then 4 minus negative 9 is going to be a positive 13, so plus 13. So this right here, this would be our f minus g of x. We're just getting a little bit used to this naming convention, okay? Other things they could ask us, hey, what is, let's say they asked us, what is f minus g? Let me actually just switch my marker. They could ask us, what is f, come on, minus g, oh goodness gracious. We'll do it down here. Nope, it's still not liking it. There we go, f minus g of 2. That could be a question they ask us. Hey, what does that mean? And all this means is go ahead and find the function f minus g like we did, and then plug in 2 for x. So we would just plug in 2 wherever we see x, okay? I believe this is it. All right, and then you could just evaluate it. So you would actually get out a number, plus 14 times 2. And I'm not going to do that here. I trust you guys can do that mental math. But you can see how everywhere I saw an x, I just plugged in 2. Okay, so that's all that means. F minus g of 2 means plug in 2 for x after you've subtracted g from f. We could also do, so we've done addition, we've done subtraction a couple times. I think you guys can determine what comes next. And let me scroll my page, and that's going to be some multiplication. Okay, so let's just say our first function, f of x, we'll keep it a little simpler this time. We'll say x squared, and g of x is the square root of x. Okay, and our question is going to be, what is f times g? All right, a lot of times you won't see that multiplication sign, but the 2 letters are next to each other. That's just f times g of x. Well, all that is x squared times the square root of x. All right, a little multiplication in there. And just a reminder, we can write the square root of x. Remember, this has an index of 2, so we could write it as x to the 1/2. So our real problem is, what is x squared times x to the 1/2? Well, in that case, all you have to do is just add your powers. So we have x to the 2 plus 1/2, or 2.5, really x to the 5/2. Okay. So that's just how you do a little bit of multiplication. Let's take a look at a little bit simple example. What if we said f of x, I'll just do a little new example down here, is, we'll say 6x, there we go, and g of x is x to the 3/4, 3/4, okay? And so our question, what they're gonna ask us in this case is, what is f divided by g of x? And so again, just this says f divided by g of x. It doesn't mean f divided by g and then multiplied by x. It's just what is f of g of x, or f divided by g of x. So again, f of x, we can put that on top, 6x. On the bottom, we have x to the 3/4. And so when two numbers have the same base, we can subtract their power. So we'll still have our 6. And then we're going to have x to the 1 minus 3/4. Well, 1 minus 3/4 is x to the 1/4. So if you left it as x to the 1/4, I'm fine with that. Or if you told me it is 6 times the 4th root of x, I like that too. That's really good. Okay. And again, just like we did before, they could ask you, hey, what is, another question they might ask you is, what is f divided by g of, in this case, let's say 3? And all you would have to do is plug that 3 in wherever you see an x, okay? We will be going over some of this on Monday, so if you are struggling with this, feel free to reach out to me, but we'll have Zoom on Monday at 11:30, so I hope to see you guys there.